Hi, my name is Kayleen DeSignori. Today I will be discussing continuity planning and management for disaster recovery. The main points on my subject are internal business threats, external business threats, potential natural disasters, early warning system, disaster preparation, threat identification, disaster management, and disaster recovery. Internal business threats happen within the business itself. So downloading viruses, information leaks, stolen data through cameras, phones, etc. Illegal activities such as drugs, stealing, even by employees, managers, and CEOs. Some external business threats are caused by an outside source. Terrorist actions, identity theft, viruses that are purposely sent to your computer, phishing, cyber attacks, hackers, and criminal syndicates. Some potential disasters are transportation accidents, sabotage, power and energy disruption, communication failure, pollution, or hazardous material spills. Some potential natural disasters are tornadoes, floods, earthquakes, fires, blizzards, and hailstorms. I thoroughly believe that staying informed ahead of time is always best, which brings me to the early warning system, which is defined by technology and associated policies and procedures designed to predict and mitigate the harm of natural and human-initiated disasters and other undesirable events. These systems are considered one of the best and should be in place to monitor hazards and provide an early warning service. Some of the early warning system examples are the news, sensor data, and social media, which all give real-time information and explain to you kind of what's happening now. Tornado sirens, and also the earthquake early warning system, which uses earthquake science and technology of monitoring systems to alert devices and people when shaking waves generated by an earthquake are expected to arrive at your location. You should always hope for the best, but prepare for the worst, which now brings me to preparation. Some natural disaster preparation. Know the risk factors for where you live. Try to have emergency kits readily available. Make a family emergency plan and go over it multiple times. I cannot stress this enough, especially if you have children. Pay attention to your surroundings and watch for severe weather warnings. They have apps for phones now and tons of ways to stay informed. Some of the computer disaster preparation includes backing up your system's data. Try and use an uninterrupted power supply. Scan for viruses frequently. Make sure that your firewalls are turned on. When it comes to passwords, make sure that they are high in strength, that you change them often, and do not write them down or share them with anybody. As far as healthcare disaster preparation, know your facility's risks. Know if you're in a bad neighborhood, or if you're in a flood zone, or somewhere where tornadoes are frequent during the summertime. Make sure your employees have updated training. Know your evacuation policies and where they're located, as well as the location of all the nearest emergency exits. If you have patients like in a hospital, for instance, know the emergency plan. Know what you are to do with those patients, especially patients that are bedridden. Always know where your hazard cleanup stations are and the location of your PPE. also known as personal protective equipment, and your crash carts. Those come in handy when something unpredicted happens to a patient or even an employee. You never know. Some ways to identify threats are you can always hire someone specifically for threat analysis. Pay attention to your surroundings. Once again, it's very important. Monitor behavior patterns of people in your surroundings. A lot of the time, people will give off cues before something happens. Do not open suspicious emails, packages, or letters. If you are concerned, call the appropriate personnel or your manager. Once again, I can't stress enough to always be prepared for what could happen because you never know. This brings us to disaster management, which is defined as the creation of plans through which communities reduce vulnerabilities to hazards and cope with disasters. It does not avert or eliminate the threats. Instead, it focuses on creating plans to decrease the effect of the disasters themselves. There have been many milestones from 1950 until now for federal government support of community recovery to help during the disaster recovery efforts. I will list some of them. In 1950, the Disaster Relief Act was put into effect, authorizing the president to provide supplementary federal assistance when a governor requested help and the president approved the request by declaring a major disaster. National Flood Insurance Act was put into place in 1968. The Disaster Relief Act of 1970. The act expanded the assistance the federal government could provide to individuals, states, and local communities from suffering from disasters. Disaster Relief Act of 1974 was passed into law by the then President Richard Nixon as a United States federal law that established the process of presidential disaster declarations. In 1979, FEMA was established, known as the Federal Emergency Management Agency. FEMA is part of the Department of Homeland Security and works through 10 regional centers in coordinating national disaster relief efforts with state and local emergency management agencies. Very helpful. In 1988, the Stafford Act was put into effect. It is a United States federal law designed to bring an orderly and systemic means of federal natural disaster assistance for state and local governments in carrying out their responsibilities to aid citizens. And in 2004, the National Response Plan was a United States national plan to respond to emergencies such as natural disasters or terrorist attacks. It came into effect in December 2004 and then was superseded by the National Response Framework on March 22, 2008. And last but not least, in 2011, the Natural Disaster Recovery Framework, which is a guide that enables effective recovery support to disaster-impacted states. Tribes, territorial, and local jurisdictions. It provides a flexible structure that enables disasters recovery managers to operate in a unified and collaborative manner so they can work together. It also focuses on how best to restore, redevelop, and revitalize the health, social, economic, natural, and environmental fabric of the community and build a more resilient nation. And after disaster management comes disaster recovery, which is involving a set of policies and procedures to enable the recovery or continuation of vital technology infrastructure and systems following a natural or human-induced disaster. This is considered the area of security planning that deals with protecting an organization from the effects of significant negative events. I believe that with accurate early notice or warning before disasters and quick responses during or after the disasters, that communities and businesses can come together and avoid large potential loss. So with that being said, that is the conclusion of my paper. Thank you.